Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another session on polity and constitution. I hope I am audible as well as visible. Okay, so let's wait for others to join and then we'll begin our discussion for the day. Okay, so I'm not really sure if we had the time to revise. Of course, it's slightly difficult, right? Especially with CSK's match yesterday. Anyway, so today we'll be covering a lot of ground. We'll be covering fifth schedule, sixth schedule. We'll also discuss emergency, the provisions, federalism, various types of federalism, very important for the examination, and also with respect to center-state relations. And if time permits, which I suppose it should, we'll also delve into fundamental rights. And hopefully, we'll discuss the basic structure today. Yes, Sayadri, absolutely. Arjun, extremely unlikely is all I would say. They'll maintain their standards. Okay, so let's begin now. Of course, the very first thing that you would love to know is the break timing. So the break timing, the standard ones that we'll have, the first break at 11:30, right, to 11:40, full enjoyment of 10 minutes. Then next break at 1. So that will be the lunch break, 1 to 2. Then the next break is going to be at, so 2 to 3, 3 to 5 is the tea break. So next is the tea break, 5 to 5:30. Then around 6:50 to 7 we can have a small break. This should be it for today, the break timings. Okay. Yes, secularism. Sir, we'll study secularism in the next weekend because we'll have to delve into Article 25 and 26. Then we'll discuss secularism. Don't worry. Sayadri, 3:30, no break. Oh, 1 to 2 is a lunch break. Oh my God, yes. Of course, of course. My bad, my bad. We will have a break at around 3:30 to 3:40. Of course. I forgot. So these will be the breaks that we'll have today. Okay. So now let's begin our discussion. The first topic at hand is the administration of scheduled and tribal areas, fifth schedule and sixth schedule. So we have been discussing a lot about these scheduled areas. In the previous classes, I have made reference also of these at certain points of time. So what exactly are these areas? So we'll discuss them separately, the fifth and the sixth schedule. So of course, the very first one is the fifth schedule. So understand the basic concept. Schedule simply means some kind of footnote, etc., right? So in the constitution, towards the end, we have these schedules, and some areas of our country are called scheduled areas because they are placed under this schedule in terms of administration. So what is the context here? Think of this. This is a state. Let's assume this is Rajasthan, because Rajasthan is a state which has scheduled 5 areas. Now in this state, there could be, and there are actually, small pockets of underdeveloped areas. Okay, small pockets of underdeveloped areas, various districts, some taluk, maybe some block, etc. These areas have, number one, very high tribal population. When I say very high, I mean to say more than half the people of the area are scheduled tribes, tribals. Number one. Number two, when I say more than half the people are of the tribal population, then apart from that, one more criteria is that these areas are slightly educationally, economically backward compared to the other areas, right? And hence they need a more focused development, right? That is why, to treat them differently, we have placed these areas separately under fifth schedule. Okay, so that we can treat these areas differently. Okay, and there are 10 such states wherein we find that they have certain districts, certain blocks, taluk, mandal, etc., sometimes certain villages where you have preponderance of tribal population. More than half the people are tribals, or these areas are also socially and educationally slightly backward. Now, if a similar kind of thing exists for northeastern states, so if this situation was in the northeast, let's say this is Assam, and you would have certain areas which have tribal population and they want a differential kind of treatment, then we will place these areas under sixth schedule. And here we have 4 such states in the northeastern region of our country. Okay, this is the fifth and sixth schedule. Now, let's start our discussion with the fifth schedule first. First up, we have schedule 5 areas, Article 244, Clause A. So these areas are identified in 10 states. I would prefer if you know the names of all these 10 states. So these 10 states are Andhra Pradesh, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Himachal, MP, Maharashtra, Odisha, Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Telangana. 10 states. So these 10 states have some districts, some taluks, some blocks, etc., which are covered under, or which come under schedule 5 areas. Okay. And who can declare an area to be a scheduled area? The president has the authority to declare any area to be a scheduled area, or can modify the boundary of the area, or can alter the boundaries, can declare that this area is no longer a scheduled area. All these things are with the president, meaning the center, the government. Okay, not the state, the central government, right? So this is the scheduled area. As I said, some districts, say if you are from Andhra Pradesh, some areas in the east and west Godavari district, for example, if you are from Jharkhand, you know Latehar, Ranchi districts. If you are from Chhattisgarh, Bastar, Dantewada, all these areas. If you are from Himachal, Lahore, Spiti, certain areas, right? If you are from MP, Dindori, Mandla, Jhabua, these kind of areas, right? Maharashtra, Thane, the Shahpur area, that's under scheduled areas, right? Same goes for Rajasthan. If you are from Rajasthan, say Pratapgarh, Banswara, all these areas. In Gujarat, Taluk in Tapi, Bharuch district, all these. Okay. And even for Telangana, Adilabad, Mehboobabad is that it, right? Mehboobabad or Mehboobabad or whatever. Okay. Some neighboring or rural areas of Warangal, they also come under Schedule 5 areas. So that's it. Okay. So this is with respect to the scheduled areas, Schedule 5 areas. Now, what is the criteria? This concept of scheduled areas is not something that has come after independence. In fact, in 1874 only, there was a law called Scheduled District Act 1874. In fact, that is seen as the origin, right? And we also had later on a government rule called Government Excluded and Partially Excluded Areas Order 1936. Basically, the Britishers had declared certain areas in the country which were inhabited predominantly by tribals, and such areas were called excluded areas or partially excluded areas. So after independence, we call them scheduled areas. The origin is the Scheduled District Act of 1874. Anyway, that's not of any concern to us. Now, how to identify an area as a scheduled area? So very simple criteria. Preponderance of tribal population, meaning tribal population should not be less than 50%. So not less than 50%. Number two, that area should be compact and reasonable in size. You can't declare an entire state to be a scheduled area. That is not possible. It should be small in size, reasonable in size, compact. Okay. Then it should be a viable administrative unit, meaning we have some administrative units like gram, like block, district, subdivision, division, etc. So those areas can be a scheduled area. Okay, don't say, sir, that colony is scheduled area. A colony is not some administrative unit. Those 5 houses, scheduled area. That is not a viable administrative unit, right? A viable administrative unit refers to any administrative unit which has a governing body, right? Or a legislative body, like say a gram panchayat for the gram, a block panchayat for the block, right? Municipal corporation for a city. Those areas are called an administrative unit. So, for example, block, district, etc. And as I said, socio-economic backwardness as compared to the neighboring areas. So basically, the idea here I'm trying to portray is the underdeveloped nature of this area, right? You will find a marked disparity in economic standards if you compare a scheduled area with the neighboring area in the same state. So these areas have a marked economic disparity. And why are we treating it differently? Because they are socially, they are educationally backward and require special efforts for development. That's the reason. Okay. So that is a purpose for which we have Schedule 5 areas. So in short, the purpose. So what is the purpose? Of course, we have to protect, also conserve tribal culture, communities. protect and preserve tribal culture, tribal communities, right? Their economic, social, political empowerment, economic, social, and political empowerment. Then, preservation of peace. Then, good governance. For good governance, to provide good governance, we have the scheduled areas. These are the reasons as to why we have scheduled areas, basically. Okay. Now, coming to the provisions. So, what are the provisions? Very simple. Union government can issue binding directions to state with respect to administration of scheduled areas. Center can issue binding directions to states with respect to administration of scheduled areas. So basically, center has lot of control over these areas. Despite these areas being in a state, center has more control. And governors of states having a scheduled area have to furnish annually or at any other time a report on the administration of the area to the president, right? So at any point of time, if the president asks, or normally annually, the governor tables a report on the general administration, the well-being of the scheduled area, as to what all improvements have happened, because we are now targeting these areas specifically for their marked improvement. So that should reflect on the ground. So annual reports have to be prepared. Then, very important, the governor, look at this provision, governor is authorized to direct that any law of the parliament or state legislature shall not apply. So if the parliament makes a law or the state government makes a law, that law may not be applicable on these areas, or if it is applicable, it may be modified in its application, right? So it's very, very important, because understand, the laws of the country may not be allowed to be enforced in these areas. Again, the idea is the tribals live here. So a simple, let's say you have a personal law, okay, on marriage or whatever. Tribals may have different kind of laws and customs. You cannot enforce the general laws of the country on these tribals because they have a distinct culture and custom. So in that sense, laws can be modified in their application. Then governor can also make regulations, right, with respect to business of money lending, allotment of land, their transfer, etc. See, there are two reasons why we have scheduled areas. Two primary reasons. Number one, protecting the culture, the custom of tribals. And secondly, also protecting their land rights. So, the two reasons here are protection of culture and land, so that outsiders don't occupy, capture the tribal land. So for this only we have effective provisions. For example, governor can make rules and regulations with respect to business of money lending. So outsiders may not be allowed to lend money here. In fact, they are not allowed. So non-tribals are not allowed to lend money to tribals. Why? Because see, tribals have a very basic, simplistic way of life. So as an outsider, you would know all the tricks of the trade, high interest rates, etc., trap the tribals into debt. So if a tribal wants any kind of money help, you please go to a regulated financial institution like a bank. But money lending is not allowed. Also, allotment of land, transfer of land. So the governor can make rules, regulations to prevent any kind of land alienation, right? Preventing the property of tribals being sold to non-tribals. So let me remind you, non-tribals cannot purchase land in these areas. Are we clear on this? In Schedule 5 areas, you are not allowed to purchase land. It is not possible only. It is also a punishable offense with huge monetary fines. We have seen various cases of this happening. I'll give you a very interesting example. This happened in Jharkhand. So at the outskirts of Ranchi, now Ranchi is a very big city and especially a growing city now. So of course, in a big city, a capital, a growing city, you of course have a very high price of land. At the outskirts of the city, a lot of tribals, scheduled tribe people were given land by the government. Now, these scheduled tribe people did not have jobs. They wanted money. They sold the land to non-tribals and got the money. This matter came to Jharkhand High Court. Jharkhand High Court issued an order ordering all the non-tribals to return the land to the tribals, impose a penalty on them, and also ask the tribals that if possible, return the money to the non-tribals, if possible. So for the non-tribals, money lost, extra fine, land lost. So please don't purchase land in a Schedule 5 area. Okay. Anyway, now, when the governor makes the regulations, you have to also understand that these regulations require center's approval. Presidential concurrence, meaning center's approval. So, center's approval is required before these regulations can come into force. So, you see how the center controls these areas, more of a direct control of these areas. Now, every such scheduled 5 area or every such state which has scheduled area, all these states have to mandatorily set up a body called TAC. TAC stands for Tribal Advisory Council. This is Tribal Advisory Council. TAC. It is mandatory to set up a Tribal Advisory Council. Now, very important. These tribal advisory councils are set up in all such states which have scheduled areas. Okay. But understand, there are also some states which have lot of tribal population, but not concentrated, scattered all across the state. Because scheduled area means an area with more than 50% tribals. So a concentrated tribal population. What if in my state, we have a lot of tribals, but they are scattered, spread all across the state? In those states also, a tribal advisory council will be set up. So TAC has to be set up in states having scheduled areas and also in states having scheduled tribes but no scheduled areas. For example, states like West Bengal, states like Tamil Nadu, states like Uttarakhand. In these states, you will find that they have TAC, no scheduled 5 area, still they have a tribal advisory council. Okay. Now, the tribal advisory council comprises of 20 members and 3/4 of them are representatives of scheduled tribes. Who are the representatives of scheduled tribes? They are scheduled tribe MLAs. Simple. So, scheduled tribes have their representation. We know very well in the Legislative Assembly, seats are reserved for scheduled tribes and scheduled castes. So, those MLAs are members of the TAC. And the task of TAC in general is to advise on the, it's an advisory council, just giving advice. So, the task is to advise on welfare and advancement of tribals. This is a task of these TACs across these states. Okay. In fact, just to tell you, whenever the governor makes the regulations, these are also made in consultation with TSC. Made in consultation with TAC. Now, that is all as far as scheduled tribes are concerned. Now, while we were discussing panchayats, I had told you that there are certain areas in our country where we do not have Part 9 provisions, right? It could be some states in the northeast, Nagaland, etc., Mizoram, or it could be scheduled 6 areas or scheduled 5 areas. Now, if you want to extend panchayat provisions, say in Nagaland, right, we can do it, but not the center. The states have to do it. So the Nagaland Assembly has to pass a law with a special majority, that is Article 368 kind of majority. And then the panchayat provisions will be extended to Nagaland. But to extend panchayat provisions to scheduled areas, scheduled 5 areas, what is required? Central government, that is a parliament, has to pass a law with a simple majority. So in 1996, parliament passed a law that is called Panchayat extension to scheduled area. So with this law, the panchayat provisions were extended to scheduled areas also. The purpose being protecting the tribals, from marginalization. That was the purpose. And this was based basically on a committee called Dilip Singh Bhuria Committee. Based on Dilip Singh Bhuria Committee report of 1994-95. So we extended the panchayat provisions to scheduled area, scheduled 5 areas only, not scheduled 6, because scheduled 5 areas are called scheduled areas. Scheduled 6 areas are called tribal areas. Okay, so when I say scheduled area, I'm going to repeat, I'm going to mean scheduled 5 areas. When I say tribal areas, I'll refer to scheduled 6 areas. Okay, that is it. So first things first, the purpose. What's the purpose? The objective is to extend the provisions of Part 9. What is Part 9? Panchayats. So Part 9 is panchayats. The purpose is to extend the provision of Part 9 relating to panchayats to scheduled areas, but the crux is modification. We will not extend all the provisions as it is. We will modify those provisions. Why? Because see, we have to provide self-rule to tribals, of course, but we have to also ensure that there should be special focus on the social, on the political, on the cultural, on the economic aspects of tribal life. So special focus has to be given on that as well. Focus on their social, their political, their cultural, their economic aspects. Okay. So that's there, providing self-rule to the tribal population. Also, we want some kind of village governance where Gram Sabha becomes the nucleus of all the activities. Gram Sabha is at the center of all activities, meaning decisions are taken collectively by Gram Sabha. What is this nucleus of all activities? Right? So Gram Sabha will be the center of all these activities. Mandeep, sir, what you told to establish panchayat, state government will decide. Mandeep, what I said was nothing new. While we were discussing panchayats, we had a slide there, Article 243M. It's mentioned there as an information. To extend panchayat provision in certain areas, what is required? All you have to do is revise. So basically, for certain states in Northeast, to extend panchayat provisions, the state legislature has to pass a law with a special majority. Nagaland, Mizoram, etc. But for Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 areas, the parliament can extend panchayat by simple majority. It's covered under panchayats. Okay. Now, next, of course, as we said, to also evolve a suitable administrative framework. See, we want to establish an administrative framework, but we also want to be consistent with traditional practices. Meaning, we have to be consistent with whatever administrative structure we have. It should also incorporate the traditional practices of the tribals. Basically, the crux, as I have always maintained, is what? Preserving the tradition and the custom of tribals. Okay, so the crux of all these things is this only, that we want to preserve their culture, their custom, and also empowering the panchayats at appropriate level. At appropriate level. What is the meaning of appropriate level? What is appropriate level of panchayat? So we have 3 levels of panchayat, of course, right? We have the gram panchayat, we have the intermediate or block panchayat, we have the zilla parishad. These 3 levels. So appropriate levels will be empowered with all those powers that are required for the tribals, their upliftment, etc. Now, provisions. So we know very well that in all other parts where panchayats are applicable, we have reservation for SCs and STs, but that is based on population in that area. Here, since more than half the people are scheduled tribes, so of course, reservation up to 50% at all levels. All levels meaning gram panchayat, intermediate panchayat, and zilla parishad at all levels for scheduled tribes, and the chairperson at all the levels. The chairperson at all the levels, meaning the gram panchayat, the block panchayat, the zilla parishad, all chairperson seats are reserved for tribals only. So a non-tribal cannot be a gram panchayat sarpanch or a mukhya, whatever you may call the person. It is not possible in a scheduled 5 areas. Okay. Then gram sabha has also been given some special powers. So basically, in schedule 5 areas, it is a gram sabha which has some special powers, like ownership of minor forest produce. See, major forest produce belongs to the forest department. Okay. Oh, sorry. First point. So major forest produce belongs to forest department, but the minor forest produce, what are these minor forest produce? Bamboo shoot, dry bark of trees, the trees bark that is there, the dry bark, trees like pipla, gamhar, wild mushrooms, tree moss. Some examples of these things are dry bark of trees, tree moss, wild mushrooms. Mushrooms here means the mushrooms we eat. Okay, don't think of mushrooms like drugs and all. Not those mushrooms. Okay. Then enforcement of liquor prohibition. So you will find that lot of scheduled, yes, GS here means Gram Sabha. You will find that in lot of schedule 5 areas, you have liquor prohibited. So Gram Sabha collectively can prohibit liquor being sold in that area. Then control over local plans and resources. So for example, you have water bodies. Okay. Then prevention of land alienation, land sold or transferred to non-tribals, preventing land alienation. So Gram Sabha collectively can pass a proposal of sorts and take decisions that no land will be sold to outsiders or non-tribals, right? That is called land alienation. See, for what is the meaning of dry bark of tree or tree moss, you can Google for the particular thing and you'll find diagrams of that. Tree moss is the moss that is there on the shoot, the trunk of the tree, that is called tree moss. Or dry bark is a covering which comes out on a tree, the trunk of the tree. I think photograph of that on Google will help you understand what it means. And if you have never been to a village or such areas, then just imagine that these things exist, right? So for urban people, I'm highly doubtful that you may be aware of all these things, but we should be. Anyway, don't worry. Once you have your Bharat Darshan in Labasna, you'll be aware of all these things. And that too at the cost of taxpayers' money. Full enjoyment. Then, as I said, control over money lending also. So, no selling of land to outsiders, control over money lending also. Other things also, like managing village markets, then matters of land acquisition, resettlement. Gram Sabha can make all these regulations, right? So, that's there. Now, some more things like the state panchayat law. So every state has its own state panchayat act, right? Because we know that some provisions are mandatory, but there are a lot of provisions which are not mandatory, right? So those provisions which are optional, so state governments have their own panchayat act. Every state government has its own panchayat act. Okay. Those state panchayat acts must be amended within 1 year, right? To also incorporate the custom and culture of these tribals, their customary laws, their social practices, their religious practices. They have to be assimilated, they have to be added within the Panchayat Act of the state. Then either Gram Sabha, either Gram Sabha or Panchayat at an appropriate level. So either the Gram Sabha or the Gram Panchayat or the intermediate Panchayat or the Zilla Parishad, anyone, they shall, not may, shall, mandatory, approve plans and programs for socio-economic development and also identifying beneficiary. What does this mean? This means that the Gram Sabha or the Panchayat at various levels, you have to take their permission, anyone's permission, before launching some new scheme or program for socio-economic development. So government schemes and programs cannot directly be launched. No, no, no. Government schemes and programs cannot directly be launched. Okay. You have to firstly get the permission of either the Gram Sabha or any level of Panchayat. So see the amount of autonomy being given. And the task of identifying who is the real beneficiary has also been left for the panchayats only. Then, whenever you have to launch any mining project, some metal mining, coal mining, diamond mining, gold mining, whatever, right? Whether it is public by the government or private or hybrid model, whatever, you have to conduct mandatory hearing with respect to land acquisition and environmental impact. Hearing meaning Gram Sabha meeting will have to take place. In that Gram Sabha meeting, the company heads would come or whoever is authorized will come, explain the project to the villagers that, see, this is a mining project, this could be the repercussion, this could be the environmental damage, we'll compensate you like this. Or if we want that land, we'll say we are going to take you from here, displace you, uproot your life, and settle you somewhere else. I mean, not in these words, in nice words only, in the marketing words, that we'll give you better quality of life in that particular area, etc. So only after the Gram Sabha's approval will all these projects be allowed. So basically, it's like a clearance, right? So that is why the clearance does not just come from the Gram Sabha, the government. It also comes from Gram Sabha, right? So that is there. See the amount of special provisions given, the autonomy given to these areas. Then, as far as current status is concerned, all the states which have Schedule 5 areas, they have made provisions, they have changed their law, and they have incorporated the panchayats, right? Every state government has taken the steps. In fact, Rajasthan was the last state in 1999 to incorporate these panchayats, though ideally when the PESA Act was passed, it said that within 1 year only you have to make these changes. But Rajasthan took a couple of years. But anyway, all the states as of now have incorporated their panchayat in their Panchayat Act PESA provisions. However, when you make some kind of law, you also have to make rules for its implementation. So in that respect, the states have been dilly-dallying on the rules. In fact, Ministry of Panchayati Raj in 2009 had made draft PESA rules as a model rule that every state can follow with certain changes. So 8 states as of now have actually made rules with respect to PESA. 2 states which have not made rules yet are Jharkhand and Odisha. In their respective states, the rules are under discussion. So they are yet to be finalized. In fact, just recently, it was Chhattisgarh. Chhattisgarh made these rules in, I think, August last year. And MP in November last year. So these 2 states have recently made the rules, and now PESA is hopefully fully functional in these areas also. Okay. So that's all as far as PESA is concerned. Now the problems. So what are the problems? Problem number 1. See, as far as the people there are concerned, when you are referring to the amount of educational level amidst or amongst these people, it's of course a bit of a challenge. It's tricky as a situation. And a lot of these tribals are not really aware of such a provision called PESA even existing. So lack of exposure because of low literacy levels is reason number 1, right? Then the law itself is very loosely worded, right? Law is not very strong. I'll give an example. Look at this phrase that we have used. Panchayat at appropriate level or Gram Sabha. This is a phrase, right? In case you want to get any project or get any scheme approved, you have to take the permission of Gram Sabha or Panchayat at appropriate level. Let's say I'm the central government and I want to implement some Panchayat provision or some scheme in a Schedule 5 area. I know very well convincing a Gram Sabha of 1,000 people or even Gram Panchayat could be a difficult task. What will I do? I'll call the IS officer, district collector. Do you want Delhi posting? You want good posting in Delhi? Okay, implement the scheme. That's it. And then the DM or a DC there or the Zilla Parishad will call the Zilla Parishad member chairperson. Come on, you want money, right? Funds. Implement the scheme. That's it. The approval given, scheme implemented. So in most cases, approval is largely not taken from Gram Sabha. It is taken from Zilla Parishad, right? And if the DM is calling a Zilla Parishad chairperson, I mean, DM is God for them. In Mumbai, it shows God calling, right? So That's how serious the matter is, that if the DM calls, the permission will be given. So basically, central government, state governments, if they want to launch any scheme, etc., they never go to Gram Sabha. Why to take the headache of convincing the entire group of people and all? Get the DM to get the approval from Zilla Parishad. That's it. Task is done. Had the law been worded like permission only from Gram Sabha and additionally from Panchayat at appropriate level, then it would have made sense. But the law is very loosely worded. There's a safe loophole which is being used by our authorities. Then, even though we have allowed the minor forest produce to be collected and sold by tribals, we find on so many occasions, because the forest acts have not been modified in most states, so forest department does not let the tribals even collect minor forest produce, saying no, it is all government's property, you can't take it. So because the laws are not modified, also the forest department does have excessive control over forest resources, including minor ones. So even though the PESA Act does say that yes, the tribals can procure, can collect minor forest produce, because the corresponding forest acts have not been modified, the forest government officials say, no, sorry, you can't. Come on, get lost. Right? That's it. Then high levels of illiteracy, that's also a huge problem. So the literacy levels are very high amongst the tribals, including the members of panchayats, right? That's there. Then codification of customs not yet done. So as we have said that every state government has to modify the Panchayat Act and modify it accordingly to incorporate the custom and culture of tribals. There are so many tribal groups, small groups, that codifying or turning their customs into proper legal or laws has not been done by the state government so far. That has been a very slow kind of process. You see that just recently, just last year, two more states made PESA rules, right? Two states are still left. 1996, it's 2023, right? So till 2022, that means till 26 years, 60% states had made the rules, 40% states had not made the rules, right? So of course, we are yet to codify all the customs of the tribals. Then poor capacity building of functionaries. So that's something that we already know in panchayats also, that the training for the panchayat functionaries is not effective. Nobody has shown interest in that. Then, as far as public hearing is concerned, we saw this point here, that such a nice point, that whenever you have to launch a mining project, Gram Sabha meeting has to be conducted. Nothing happens. It is just on paper. Let's be real. It's public hearings with respect to environment and land acquisition only on paper. It's just a farce. Nothing of this sort happens, right? Government officials will approve the project. The DM will go to Zilla Parishad member. Come on, get the signature of all the members of Gram Sabha. Zilla Parishad official will send a register saying this is a notice. Sign, get the sign. And the Gram Panchayat Sarpanch will say, okay, come on, guys, sign. 100 signs given, meeting was conducted. That's it. That is why some NGOs are saying that there is a suggestion here. There should be video recordings of meetings. That's important. Then conversion of villages into Nagar Panchayat. So what has happened is we have something called PESA, right? PESA is a headache for state government, that now, I have to modify my Panchayat Act, incorporate all these provisions. Governor gets more power, center gets more power under PESA. So what do? I will translate this scheduled area, which is a rural area, into an urban area, because the governor can do it through a notification, and he can simply translate that into a Nagar Panchayat, an upcoming transitional area. We have seen this in panchayats and municipalities. So conversion of villages into Nagar Panchayat. Nagar Panchayat is what? Nagar Panchayat is a part of municipality, urban area. And in urban areas, for scheduled 5 areas, there is no MESA, meaning municipalities extension to scheduled areas. That is not there. This extension to scheduled areas is only for panchayats. So if I don't want to perform the functions, what I'll do is I'll simply translate this is rural area. It's urban now. That's it. For urban, I have to take no efforts to make some MESA because there is no MESA, only PESA. And finally, one more thing, when we say that panchayat has to be on the board with respect to approvals of projects, etc., conduct a meeting with Gram Sabha members. Frankly, government has gotten involved in this habit. You will observe this if I give you an example. Every month in your monthly magazines and all, you will see that one minister has gone to some foreign country, has signed 16 MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. So government has signed 16 MOUs with Israel, 20 MOUs with South Africa, right? What is this MOU? Basically, these memorandums of understanding are kind of assurances given by our government to those countries and the companies there that come to India. We have everything ready. All you need to do is just come, launch your project. We are waiting. Please come on. So now, once you have given all the companies an assurance, they come here. But the problem is that before you gave the assurance, did you also conduct environmental hearings? Did you acquire land, etc.? No. Government firstly gives signs MOUs. When they come back, the ministers, then they call the DMs and all, come on, get the land, convince the villagers. And then the project starts. That is why protests happen in all these areas. Because the government did not follow the right path of getting approval first from the people and then going and signing the bond with foreign these companies. So imagine a situation. Let's say you want to marry somebody, right? So if you want to marry somebody, the right approach would be to firstly ask the person and then tell your parents and throw a party. You throw a party before and only. And then later on you say, see, I am throwing a party for marriage. Please come, get married. That's not possible. You firstly convince the person, please get married, and then throw a party. Same thing is happening here. The government is signing MOUs before implementing basic provisions of PESA. And that is why you find that all these obstructions happen, randomly protests are happening here and there. Why? Because you did not take people on board. Now their life, their land is under threat. So of course they'll feel bad about it. So these are some of the issues. And we say that for the last point especially, we say that government and the tribals. Tribals want PESA, the proper implementation of PESA. But government wants PESA. It only wants money at any cost. And because government is just going on signing MOUs, government has become MOU Wadi, it is forcing the tribals into becoming Maoists. Play of words. And we say that this PESA provision, which looks to be a harbinger of hope and promise for all these tribals, making them masters of their own destiny, right, has not proved to be worthy. And in fact, the tribals are losing this war that we say of Jal, Jungle and Zameen on a daily basis, right? So that's the sad part of it. In fact, tribals know their land, they can't prove their land, they don't have documents, their lands are being occupied slowly and steadily by the government only, right? Uh, their trees are being cut down, they are being displaced. It is happening. That's why you say that this battle that they are facing of Jal, Jungle and Zameen, the tribals are losing this battle. every day in this country, right? So that is why we say that the provisions and laws are there, but how effectively are you implementing it is also something that is best left for the governments to understand, right? Because what we feel as development may not be development for them. We may feel, oh, more malls, development, but for them, trees could be development, right? So again, the idea of development may be different, and the beauty of any country lies in, you know, the concept of unity, not uniformity. So we have to appreciate diversity and incorporate the different aspirations of different groups of people. Okay, that's it. Sayadri, fourth point in problems. What is the fourth point? High levels of illiteracy. This is amongst the tribals. So if you are not literate, not aware, lack of exposure, so of course you are not able to put your foot down when such uh, projects are being forced upon you. And that also gives this window of opportunity for all these NGOs to come in and then raise protests, agitations, etc. So I am saying not every NGO is has its intentions misplaced. Some NGOs are genuinely working for the welfare of the tribals, but this also opens that window of opportunity for all those NGOs which come in, which try to destabilize the country uselessly. That's also there. Shalu, fifth point. Codification of customs not yet done. As I explained this point, that see, when it comes to custom, let's say you have a tradition or a custom in your tribal community. So for that custom to also have legitimacy, that custom should be recognized somewhere in some law. It should be codified, right? It should be written. Coded means written. It's not coding in computer, writing. So most of these customs of these tribals are yet to be properly written in the form of laws, and that is why they lack the legal recognition, right? So if any custom of yours gets a legal mandate, then you cannot be punished by the authorities, right? For example, if any religious law allows girls under 18, kids to be married, then you cannot actually punish the person because the law allows for it, right? Right or wrong is separate discussion. I'm just giving an example. So this is how your personal customs, every group wants their customs to have some legal mandate, because this makes it legal. Otherwise, customs can be cancelled. If your custom is harassing somebody, violating somebody's dignity, we can remove it. Okay, that's it. Nitin, as an administrator, what should we do, as we cannot go against the government? That is the problem with that ethical dilemma with a lot of IAS officers. I mean, the power of convincing your seniors also is a very important part that you need to understand and possess. Maybe you are right in understanding the tribal situation, but are you able to truly make the higher authorities understand the reality at the ground level? If you prepare a proper, say, whatever presentation, etc., and send it to your senior that, sir, if we start this project, this is what can happen, this can be a fallout, give some examples from the recent situations, etc. The more prepared you are on what exactly can be a future fallout of this forceful implementation of a project, the more serious your seniors will be in taking your opinion into consideration, right? Sayadri, preservation of peace. Uh, Preservation of peace, security, etc. means that there should be, see, a lot of tribal infighting can go on, tribal fights can go on. We want peace, security, right? Economic development, social development. So that's a general way of saying that we want peace and tranquility, public order is maintained, things are nice and smooth in these tribal areas. Okay. Land alienation, as I just explained, Shalu, land alienation basically refers to land being sold away, land being taken away from you is alienation. When when you are alienated, you are being taken away from something. So land alienation refers to land being taken away. Okay, these are all English phrases. You can Google search for them. Okay, so that's all I believe. When do we have the first break? We have a first break in half an hour. Don't worry. Sir, how will the Schedule 5 area we will extend to Gram Sabha? What is the need of this if we are having a structure? Gram Sabha? Gram Sabha is a part of Panchayat. So if you have a Schedule 5 area, then it's mandatory to have a Gram Sabha. Right? Shiva. Sir, TSC will go along with PESA? Yes, of course. In fact, that's their purpose. TSC should go along with PESA provisions. Okay. Now we'll move on to the Schedule 6 areas. See, these are referred to as tribal areas. Article 244, Clause 2, Schedule 6, tribal areas. These are areas in 4 northeastern states. Way back, when the constitution was being made, there was a committee, a subcommittee rather, called Gopinath Bordoloi Committee, after whom the airport in Assam is there, right? The Guwahati airport. So Gopinath Bordoloi airport. So Gopinath Bordoloi subcommittee was there, and that subcommittee gave recommendations that why don't we treat these people differently, right? Now you will say, sir, if they are also tribal people, why don't we have collectively one Schedule 5 area only and 14 states? Why treating them separately? See, Mandeep, I think you'll have to also understand what is being said. Careful listening is also important. You may have referred to the clause and all, but the sad part is that this was already taught in the class. And I had said very clearly that extending Schedule 5 and Schedule PESA to Schedule 5 and 6 areas is the mandate of the Parliament by simple majority. And I also said that if you want to extend the Schedule 5 Panchayat provisions to Nagaland and other such northeastern states, then those state legislatures have to extend through a special majority. So please also understand what is being said here, rather than trying to make some reference and point, which is completely unsuited to this environment. So I had said very clearly that Schedule 5 and 6 areas, the Panchayat provisions are to be extended by the Parliament by law, but for some northeastern states like Nagaland, Meghalaya, etc., the Panchayat provisions will be extended by their respective state legislatures, right? For better reference and clarity, please refer to Article 243M. Okay? Anyway, so tribal areas. So as I was mentioning this point, why treat them differently? Because, see, understand. Firstly, let me clarify one doubt you may have in your mind, that tribals. So you may consider a tribal from some remote area in Madhya Pradesh or Chhattisgarh, etc. The tribals in Northeast are in no way like the tribals in other parts of the country. Okay, the literacy rates are very high, amongst the best in the country. 85-90% literacy rates. Number one. Number two, these tribals are highly westernized, very modern way of look at how they dress and very high style quotient, right? So they are modern in every sense. But despite that, they are also rooted to their culture and custom. Like, say, marrying within the tribe only, say, for example, Nagaland only. If you meet some Naga person, their tribal identity is a very important element. Okay, so the understanding has to be there that these tribals are educated, but yet the ethnicity that they have is very close to their heart. So we have to not only ensure that these tribals are protected in terms of culture and custom, we have to treat them differently because they are very educated. Secondly, a very unique problem exists because of this extreme sense of ethnic concept, ethnic consciousness that I am different. There has also been the issue of separatism. in these areas, which is largely not there in other tribal areas. I mean, you may say, sir, what about the Maoists and all? See, Maoism largely is a problem that has plagued our country and is being fueled slowly and steadily by these left-wing liberals. But most of the tribals in large parts of our country have no such interest in having a separate country. But we have seen these kind of movements happening. Now it has come down drastically in the northeastern part, also because for a long period of time, the northeastern parts, largely the people, felt excluded. Look at mainstream media, look at mainstream cinema, look at mainstream textbooks. I mean, for that matter, even the southern states can very clearly say that we have also been overlooked. Yes, largely. Look at our history textbooks. So we are taught about the great Mughals, but nobody teaches about the home kingdom, which constantly defeated the Mughals, right? We are taught about the Lodi dynasty, but nobody teaches about Martandavarman or Vijayanagar Empire, a small chapter, a small paragraph, Cholas, Pandyas, that's there. So largely they have felt they are excluded, not considered to be a part of mainstream. So they, historically as well. So the feeling of separatism was there. It's now that you witness the central government taking steps for political reasons only, does not matter, but they take steps proactively to visit these states, make people feel that, see, you are also part of this country, right? That's it. So purpose. The purpose is number one, ethnicity. So protecting ethnic identity and also preventing separatism. Okay. So in your IR classes, you will find that the separatist tendencies have largely come down. I won't say it's zero, of course, but it has come down drastically over the years with funding, with giving them autonomy, etc. It has come down, and we'll see how drastic. I mean, how drastically different is the treatment of these areas, okay, from the other areas. So people used to be very angry and upset. Oh, Jammu and Kashmir, so much of autonomy being given. Let's now look at the Schedule 6 areas, and you'll be surprised at the amount of autonomy being given to these areas. So scheduled areas, Schedule 6 area, that is tribal areas, are in 4 states. These 4 states, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Tripura, and Assam. Okay. Now, this is a diagram. So in all these 4 states, let's say, take the example of Assam. So till Dima Hasao and all, Assam. So in this state of Assam, one area, large part of the state, this is for Bodo land. This Karbi Anglong, Dima Hasao. Then this is Meghalaya. So in Meghalaya, Garo, Khasi, Jaintia. In Tripura, you can see we have a Scheduled 6 area. Okay. And of course, in Mizoram, this is Mizoram. So some parts of the state have Scheduled 6 areas, just like tribal areas. Some parts have Scheduled 6 areas. Okay. Now, what are the provisions? The task is to identify some districts, like these districts, which will be called Scheduled 6 area. And for every such district, we will create a council that will be called a district council, popularly called DC, and sometimes also referred to as ADC, autonomous district councils, right? So that's there. Now, in case in case, take the example of Mizoram only. In case, in some other part of Mizoram, we have some tribal population, then for that particular part, we can also have an RC, regional council. For certain districts, we have autonomous district council. Okay. And in other parts, if it is warranted, if it is needed, we will have something called a regional council. So, autonomous districts, creation of ADC and regional councils in other areas with substantial tribal population. And every ADC has 30 members, every ADC. Of these 30 people, 26 are elected. See, procedure of election, etc. Governor makes rules on how to elect these people. 4 are nominated. Okay. There is one exception actually. So the point is, every DC has elected members. Look at all the DCs now. So for Garo Hills, we'll have Garo Hills ADC, Khasi Hills ADC, Jenta Hills ADC, Dima Hasao ADC, Karbi Anglong ADC, Tripura ADC, Chakma ADC, Lai ADC, Mara ADC. See, 9 different ADCs that you can see here. Yes or no? Khasi Hills ADC, Jaintia Hills, Garo Hills, Chakma, Lai, Tripura tribal areas ADC, Mara, Dima Hasao, Karbi Anglong. One ADC has a different name. That ADC is the Bodoland ADC. So Bodoland ADC is not called Bodoland ADC. It is called Bodoland Territorial Council. Okay. And that Bodoland Territorial Council has different membership. Bodoland Territorial Council. This has 46 members, not 30. Number is not important. Nobody is going to ask this question, but just for understanding and basic information, 46 members. Here also, 6 members are nominated, 40 are elected. Of these 6 nominations, 2 have to be women. From 40 elected, 30 are tribals, 5 are non-tribals. So all this subcategory, nobody is going to ask us. Okay. Anyway, so who nominates? Anshu, nomination depends on the governor. Governor nominates. Okay. Anywhere you have nomination, it is the governor's nomination. Now, third point, and please read the third point. Laws made by DCs require governor's consent. You'll say very nice. But did you observe? Laws made by DCs, meaning what? DCs can make laws. Yes, of course. The autonomous district councils that you see here, this body makes laws like legislature. ADCs implement laws. They have executive powers also. And in these schedule 6 areas, you have separate courts also. Their own legislative setup, their own executive setup, their own judicial setup. And we talk about, autonomy given to other parts. Look at the amount of independence and autonomy given to these areas. They make their own laws. They implement their own laws. To settle tribal disputes, they have their own separate court system also, right? So we'll come to this shortly. And any topic on which ADC has a power to make laws, any topic on which ADC has power to make laws, state government laws will not extend until and unless approved by the ADC. So ADCs also approve the laws made by state governments if those laws have to be applied in an area which is an autonomous district, like this area, this area, this area, this area, this area, this area, all these areas. Now let's see the powers that they have. First up is the legislative powers. See, This is a list of all the legislative powers that the ADC has. Again, please let me remind you, the main purpose of such areas, Schedule 5 and 6 areas, is to protect the culture custom, protect their land rights. Here also, buying and selling of land to outsiders not allowed. Okay, you cannot purchase land, cannot reside in these areas. So, allotment, occupation, and use of land, that is all decided by ADC. How to allot land to non-tribals, who can occupy land, use of land, everything is controlled by the ADC. Of course, just an exception, please. Government of India or state government, they can acquire land compulsorily. Of course, it is very logical. This is not some Indian provision. World over, you go to any country, the government of that country, in most cases, has full authority to occupy individuals' land for a public purpose. So, government has the authority. Here also, the only exception is government of India, government of state can compulsorily take land. But for public purpose. Okay. This is called eminent domain. It's there everywhere. So in our country, I mean, at least when it comes to religious places, so you'll have to think twice. But if you go to some other countries, say, for example, go to Saudi Arabia, for example, their religious places are demolished. If the kings there want, those religious places are demolished overnight for public construction, and not a single voice is raised. It's only in our country that if government has to take some over some kind of religious place, even for development of some network of highways, railways, etc., there's a lot of hue and cry, right? So sometimes too much of democracy, as Ajit Doval said, is also a very strange thing. Anyway, so then management of forests, except reserves, of course. Forest reserve comes under forest department, but otherwise ADCs manage forests also. Use of canals, water course, any kind of river body in the ADC, in this district, autonomous district, is controlled by ADC, right? Then regulation of the practice of shifting cultivation, jhum, that you have, it is all controlled by ADCs. Establishment of village committees, town committees for basic governance, etc. Then matters relating to village and town administration, matters like police, health, sanitation, on all these matters, the ADCs can make laws. What more do you want in terms of autonomy? Then appointment and succession of headmen of tribes, chief of tribes, because of their tribal culture, they follow all these elements of appointing tribesmen, headmen, etc. In their community. Apart from it, all aspects of personal law, ADCs have the power to make laws on personal matters. What is personal matter? What is personal law? Examples: marriage, divorce, any kind of social custom, inheritance of property. So, and just to point this out, we normally have been worrying too much on UCC. For those who don't know, don't worry. Next weekend, we'll discuss UCC. But Uniform Civil Code, right? We have to have same laws across the country for all religions. Will you also have same laws for these tribals? Of course not. UCC will always have exceptions. It is not simply possible to have uniform laws in such a diverse country like India. You will have to have exceptions, right? That's there. Now, executive powers of these DCs. What are these executive powers? Firstly, establishing, constructing, and managing primary schools, dispensary, markets, road and water transport, cattle ponds, fisheries, ferries, etc. But for all this, you have to take prior approval of the governor. Governor means what? Center. I mean, though governor has to act independently, but we know very well governor is central government appointment. So of course, center again has control, right? Then management of agriculture, animal husbandry, community projects, social welfare, cooperative societies, village planning, markets, etc. Every such thing they have passed to implement rules, regulations. Then for settling, and I'll repeat, for settling disputes amongst tribals only. Tribal dispute. To settle disputes amongst tribals, they have a separate court system, two-tier court system. At the bottom, you have something called a village council. If you are unhappy with the decision of the village council, nobody is stopping you. Approach the next level, and that is called district council. And if you're unhappy with the district council, then of course you can always move to the what? High court. So lower courts have no authority over the tribal disputes. Of course, non-tribals will not go to these courts because a very logical reason is biasness. Because these courts are run by tribals incorporating tribal custom, culture, etc. So these are meant to settle only disputes amongst the various tribal communities. Non-tribals are not allowed to approach these courts. Okay. Then financial powers. See, district council, Lakshmi, does not mean district court, though you can say that it is like a district court, right? So this is a two-tier court setup which is there. That is what they are called. Now, you may feel, let me call this district court. That's your personal choice, but I would not refer to this as district court. It is their court system. Okay. Anshu, or of course, after High Court, Supreme Court. Of course, that's there. I mean, I ended High Court till High Court because I think that after High Court, you can go to Supreme Court also. So that's there. Let me write Supreme Court. Okay. Vipin, laws of ADC. Yes. Laws of ADC are codified. Now, of course, there are still some problems with respect to some codifications because there are too many customs. How to codify all the customs, right? But yes, they are largely being codified on a very large scale. Executive powers, no, they are conferred to RCs also, but we don't have RCs, so there's no point. Vipin, hypocrisy is a power for panchayat. Oh, of course, that's there. No, but that is why, see, somebody is pointing out that there is a lot of hypocrisy in the amount of powers we have for panchayats, and look at the powers we give to the ADCs. So that is why we sometimes feel that, if people raise their voice, they agitate too much, they are highly enlightened and educated, the government is forced into meeting your demands. So sometimes, it feels as if the government is also wanting us to, strike and protest too much. It's like, in a family, if there are two kids and one kid is always crying for everything, the parents are forced into accepting that crying kid's whims and fancies, and the other kid is quiet, then that kid is told, oh, you are so mature, understand. So that, also, makes the other kid feel that if I cry also, then I also get my demands met. So that's a very wrong precedent, actually. But sadly, what can we do? No Sakshi. PESA rules are not meant for this. PESA is only that. PESA, PESA, reference to the panchayat extended to only scheduled areas. These are tribal areas. Okay, so no PESA here. No, ADCs make laws by executive action. No, laws are made through legislative action. So the ADC members pass laws amongst themselves. Then financial powers. As far as financial powers are concerned, they have the powers to collect, impose. Levy means to impose, collect is to collect taxes. For example, land revenue, taxes on animals, taxes on vehicles, taxes on entertainment, then taxes on amusement parks that you have. What else? Water, tax on water, etc. Of course, most of these taxes are non-lucrative. See, land revenue, it's largely selling and buying of land amongst tribals only. It is very infrequent. Tax on vehicles, yes, that's there, but these are slightly non-remunerative, right? So that's there. Apart from it, of course, this is the money that they collect and they use it for maintaining schools. So here, when we say that they have power to construct and also manage schools and dispensaries, etc., how do they get the money from? So this only, taxing these things and getting money to manage schools, dispensaries, maintaining roads, etc., right? And just like center has CFI, states have CFS, panchayats also have a provision of creating a separate fund. Similarly, we also have the option of creating a district and a regional fund where money can be sent. So every ADC can have its own regional fund or a district fund where all the money comes. Because see, eventually you have to depend on center for funds. So whatever you may do, you have to depend on center for funds. See, especially northeast, because we don't have so many industries. It's not possible also. These are ecologically very sensitive areas. So of course, that's the challenge. And when center controls funds, it controls practically everything. That's how it is going to be. Okay. Nitesh, amusement park in SA. Amusement park can be there anywhere, right? ADC is only for Schedule 6. Yes, ADC is only for Schedule 6. Tax on animals. Right, tax on animals meaning keeping animals. We are not taxing the animals. We are not asking dogs, come on, pay tax. Taxing people who keep these animals. Let's say, to give you an example, if somebody is has say 20 cows, just an example, there can be a tax by this can be done in the panchayats also. Panchayat members can also tax cattle. That if anybody has more than 2 cows, 50 rupees per cow per year, possible. The panchayats don't tax them because most of the rich people who are members of panchayats, they only have multiple cattle. So eventually they'll be taxing themselves only. That's why they avoid it. That's the harsh reality. Yes, Vipin, center gives funds. Don't worry. Everybody gets funds from center only. Now, see, this is with respect to the ADCs. Of course, if you look at, say, some other northeastern states, if somebody is interested, say, for example, Arunachal. So in Arunachal, we already have panchayats. In Manipur, we have panchayats. And in Manipur, there are certain hilly areas of Manipur where you have a separate law called Hill Village Authority Act, where you have district councils. Nagaland has village councils. That's the concept. Otherwise, Arunachal and Manipur do have panchayats to a large extent. These are the remaining 4 states. And one Nagaland has village councils, which is separate completely. Okay. Now comes a very important element. If a central law or a state law is made, central law by the parliament, state law by the state legislature, then can those laws be implemented in these areas, in these autonomous districts? Of course they can, but they can be modified. By whom? In Assam, by the governor. In Meghalaya, by the president. In Tripura, if it is a state law, then governors modify it. If it is a central law, then president. Okay. Uh, Please mug this up, because it is possible that we may get a question. It's very easy to get a question, form a question from this, right? So when it comes to Tripura, any state law will be applicable, or a modification in that law in its application can be done by the governor. But any state law in its application to Meghalaya, the modification can be done by the president and not governor. So these are slightly different provisions which have been incorporated. One more thing, very important. See, of course, governors can appoint commissions to inquire into and get a report on the administration of these areas. But a very, very important point. See, we have given these DCs powers to make laws, passing acts, etc. Fair enough. But these DCs are not allowed to pass any law, pass any kind of rule which will likely to endanger, which is likely to hamper and endanger the safety of the country, or which violates public order. If any such law is made which goes against the country's safety, which violates public order, then the governors can suspend or even cancel such laws. So one very important point is, governors can annul means to cancel, or suspend acts or even resolutions, that is rules made by ADCs if they threaten uh, the public order. Let's write public order first. They are prejudicial to public order, or if they endanger country's security. That is security, or you can also mention safe. ADC means, Hari, ADC refers to Autonomous District Council. That's what we have been studying so far, right? ADC. The DCs, I had said here, Autonomous District Council. DC, ADC, same. No difference. In fact, in your books, you'll find ADC only. It's only in the constitution that they mention district councils. Because they're autonomous, we call it ADC, Autonomous District Council. Where is it? Okay. Yes, Shalu, ADCs are in Schedule 6 areas. So for every autonomous district, there is one ADC only. Okay. For this entire area, one ADC. This entire area, one ADC. This entire area, one ADC. Whether you have urban parts or rural parts, we don't care. One ADC. Sushri, public order. What public order means? Any kind of what is public order? Maintenance of peace and tranquility in the area. That is called public order. Public order gets violated, meaning what? The general law and order situation uh, collapses completely, so much so that it will take a long period of time to restore breakdown of law and order. And when it impacts a large area on a large scale, that is called public order getting violated. Okay, that's public order. Okay, that's it. Now we have some issues. We'll discuss issues and take a break. Just a small amount of time required. Issues. Codifying customary laws. So as somebody was asking me that, sir, have all the laws been codified? Of course not. In fact, if you look at the northeastern area, I'll give you an example. Let's take the example of say Tripura only. If you look at Tripura, there are so many tribal communities. Tripura is highly heterogeneous group. Multiple tribal communities are there all across the state. Don't expect the ADCs to incorporate all the codification, all the customs, etc., of every tribal community. It is not possible only. So that also creates, some kind of disparity, and also creates a sense of again exclusion in the minds of some tribals who feel that my laws yet not given legal status, right? So that is there, of course, that will always be there. So codification of customary laws. Example, Tripura, a very good example. Then corruption. So name a body in our country and we will have corruption there. That's the standard provision. So here also, money is sent, but is it being devolved to people? Sadly, no. And see, there is also a big problem here in Northeast. A lot of funds do come. Job opportunities not really there a lot. So people move out. Those who remain uh, are underpaid again, and there is also free flow of drugs from this golden triangle of Thailand, Laos, etc. The drugs free flow is there. So you see various techniques being used by these drug mafia to bring in drugs in the country, and then the youth getting embroiled in drugs. In fact, so much so has been the usage of drugs, rampant use of drugs, that there are multiple rehabilitation centers in the northeastern parts in some states to prevent drug use. And we have also seen a very resurgence, or rather a high rise in HIV cases, because they keep on using needles and they keep on exchanging needles, sharing needles. That has caused a prevalence of HIV in certain districts in these areas, right? So that's again a problem. And people who are in the ADC, top leaders elected by the people there, of course they are politicians. So as every politician would, their interests become primary and people's interests become secondary. Then irregular financial devolution. So we also have seen this from the government side, that the financial devolution has not been regular. It has been very erratic, irregular. And on lot of occasions, the money only comes when elections are pending, right? Money only comes when the center wants to get a scheme program approved, a project approved. So that free flow of funds has not been there. Then land alienation. Now you may say, sir, we cannot purchase land here. What is this land alienation? How is it possible? It is possible. I'll tell you. There are two ways. Number one, Benami. What is Benami? When you purchase land on somebody else's name. So let's say I'm a non-tribal, right? I purchase land, but in the name of a tribal there. So land has been sold to a tribal, but I'm the real owner. That tribal could be working in my house, right? So this will create this kind of anguish in the, see, as I said, people in Northeast don't think they are illiterate people. They are highly educated people. They understand all this nonsense. So they know very well that this Benami transactions are going on. And this is causing a lot of conflict between tribals and non-tribals, outsiders. Because the tribals know very well that you have taken this land in somebody else's name, but you are the real owner of the land. Second way to get land is through lease. So what happens? Land is not purchased. It's taken on rent, lease. How many years? 99 years lease. 199 years lease. 499 years lease. 499 years of lease. That's as good as purchasing the land. And that's a damn purchase. So they have, the non-tribals, outsiders have found these loopholes. I am not purchasing. I am taking land on lease. That's as good as purchase. So this has resulted in lot of tribal, non-tribal conflict. Okay. Then there is always an issue of representation. To give you a simple example, look at Bodos only. In Assam, uh, roughly 12.4% people are tribals in Assam. But Bodos are in a majority. Almost one third, 35% people are Bodos. And they control everything, everywhere. Majority. Other tribals feel left out, too small to make any difference. In the ADCs also. Why ADC has only 30 members? There could be a lot of tribal groups, some large, some small. Larger tribal groups get their members elected to ADC, their customs codified, their culture recognized. This causes resentment in the minds of smaller tribal groups. So there is always an issue of representation, right? And finally, look at Meghalaya. Look at the state of Meghalaya. This is Meghalaya. For all those who do not know, this is Meghalaya. Okay, the entire state is under tribe ADC only. We still have a government there. I mean, barring some parts of Shillong and neighboring districts, the entire state is under ADC only. Then why do you have the government? And if you have the government, why do you have ADC? So it seems that there is no relevance of ADC in Meghalaya, or there is no relevance of government in Meghalaya. Don't have both. So almost entire state is under ADC. So when it comes to such issues, these are the issues. But to summarize, the schedule 6 area provisions, the tribal area provisions, the ADC, etc., they have actually helped in bringing down insurgency and providing a sense of economic development to these areas. So the schedule 6 areas have genuinely had a very positive effect on these areas, and it has largely tried to assimilate people in the country as well. So that's there. Of course, you may say, sir, but we are buying their love through money. That's it. That's true. But yes, I mean, if you just to give you an assessment of how much money we are devolving, if you compare scholarships given to kids, college students, which can range to as high as 20,000 per month in some cases in northeastern states. If I compare the scholarship given to some kids in Bihar, as per their Bihar scholarship booklet, for kids from classes 1 to 5, the annual scholarship in some cases were 54 rupees. What is the point of giving 54 rupees per year as scholarship? Don't give that also, it's okay. With 54 rupees, what will the kid do? So that's there, of course. But then the overall outcome has been positive. That is something we can definitely say as far as the Schedule 6 areas are concerned, slightly better than Schedule 5 areas. Of course, it has come at the cost of a very high level of autonomy being extended to these areas. That's it. Solve a question and then we'll take a break. The first question for the day. 40 seconds, easy question. Okay, great, 70%. Mark the correct answer. If a particular area is brought under the 5th schedule of the Constitution of India, which one of the following statements best reflects the consequence? Of course, this is a consequence. It would prevent transfer of land of tribal to non-tribal people. This would create a local self-governing body. No, it already exists. This is wrong. This would convert them into a UT, makes no sense. The state having such areas would be declared a special category state. We don't have such categories anymore, so it is not there. Right answer is A. Okay, so that's all. Let's take a break. And once we come back, we'll continue our discussion further. Break, please. Why is B incorrect? This would create a local self-governing body. Why is bringing some area under fifth schedule related to this? Local self-governing body comes from panchayat provisions. Did you forget it already? It does not come from bringing an area under fifth schedule. In fact, an area under fifth schedule existed since 1950. But only after we made the panchayat provisions and then passed PESA, we were able to extend PESA or panchayat into scheduled areas. So what came first? Scheduled area. They already existed. Local self-governing body comes from panchayats, not from scheduled areas. They are two different things. We have extended local self-governing body into scheduled areas. Okay. So break, please. Be back at 12. Okay. Welcome back, guys. Election intervals procedure connected by same or not. See, for such details of membership of ADC, it all varies. So the governor makes rules, so it's completely different. And for the details, we'll have to look into every ADC, their internal functioning, how in that state they're elected and all, which is beyond the scope of our syllabus. So no need to worry. But yes, it's different from what we have at other levels. Okay. TSC in comparison to ADC have less powers. TSC has no powers, Priyanka. TSC is an advisory body. ADC is a body which has real powers. Uh, Yamini, difference between scheduled areas and scheduled tribes. No, no. Difference between scheduled areas and tribal areas. So scheduled area refers to those areas in the 10 states which have tribal population, and the tribal areas refer to schedule 6, those 4 states which have tribal population. So difference has to be between schedule 5 and schedule 6. Scheduled areas contain tribals. Officers appointed here, no Shiva. For officers appointed there, it's all government officers. So the reservation is based on the state government's reservation criteria. Okay. Nikhil, we don't have panchayats in these areas. In schedule 6 areas, we don't have panchayats. Panchayats have only been extended in schedule 5 areas, not in 6 areas. That's why I said PESA, only for scheduled areas, schedule 5 areas. Okay. Now, let's look at the last topic, and then we'll move into center-state relations to summarize our public administration part of our syllabus. Is emergencies in the Indian Constitution. So we have 3 types of emergencies that can be imposed in this country. The first one is, of course, the national emergency, which is generally called national emergency, but the correct term is proclamation of emergency. Okay. And this emergency has so far been proclaimed how many times? Tell me. Let's start a poll. 5 options. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Please tell me how many times in our country have we had a national emergency? A for 1, B for 2, C for 3, D for 4, E for 5. Please type. How many times have we had a national emergency proclaimed? Okay. The answer is 3 times. One was in 1962, then in 1971, and then in 1975. So most of you who marked 1 knew the 1975 emergency, but we had 2 emergencies before that also, when we were at war with China and also Pakistan. So 3 times. And when it comes to the article for emergency, the major article is Article 352, which deals with all elements of how to impose emergency. But beyond that, some other articles are Article 353, 354, 358, 359. Okay. So these are other articles, but this is a major article, 352. Then 356 is what is the president's rule, which is actually called the failure of constitutional machinery in the state. Other important articles include 355 and 357. Okay. This has been imposed over 100 times. In fact, just to tell you, roughly 115 times till 2016. So around 115 to 120 times so far. Finally, we have Article 360, only one article, financial emergency. Whenever the country's financial stability is under threat and it has never been imposed so far. And now it's unlikely. India is now too big to fail, so it is extremely unlikely that we'll have a financial emergency. Right? Okay, so we'll begin our discussion with the National Emergency Article 352. Shalu, 1965, no national emergency. Why? Because the emergency in 1962 was continued, and it continued till 1965, in fact beyond 1965, and that is why, since an emergency was already there in the country, there was no need to have yet another emergency. The 1962 one continued till 1966, 1967. So, National Emergency Article 352, first point, who can proclaim it, who can impose it? Of course, the President. But when I say the President can impose it, it does not mean it's some personal power of the President. The satisfaction of the President actually means a written communication by the Cabinet. So and this is, let me remind you, this is the only place in the Indian Constitution where the word cabinet has been mentioned, right? Article 352. Only place in Constitution where word used. And there also, what is the meaning? They say meaning same as Council of Ministers in Article 74. It has the same meaning. Anyway, this was also added later on in 1978. So basically what happened was that in 1975, when Indira Gandhi imposed emergency, so emergency was imposed in the early hours of the morning, and when people got up, so they found that emergency had already been imposed, all the ministers. So Indira Gandhi at 6 a.m. on the 26th of June 1975 unilaterally announced emergency, right? I mean, of course, the emergency's order was issued at midnight only, but officially at 6 a.m. in the morning on All India Radio, it was announced that President has proclaimed emergency. And I believe there was the announcement that there is nothing to panic about. This is in response to a deep and wide-seated conspiracy. And Indira Gandhi said in that particular show that because of the progressive measures I began to introduce, there has been a deep and widespread conspiracy to remove me from my post, and that is why I had to proclaim emergency. That was the All India Radio announcement. But the order was issued at 12 o'clock in the at night only. Of course, we had no internet, so people could only know through the All India Radio, and all the ministers also came to know through All India Radio only. So in 1978, when Congress lost the election, Janata Party came to power. The first step it took was to modify this, saying that from now on, emergency will be imposed only on the written permission of the entire cabinet, not just the prime minister. So the entire cabinet has to give in writing to the president, and then emergency can be imposed. Then, when can emergency be imposed? So one more thing, the beauty of this emergency's imposition is that it can be imposed in the entire country or a small part also. So it is possible to impose a national emergency in just a few districts, maybe just in the state of Rajasthan, in the state of UP, Tamil Nadu, etc., or the entire country also. It is possible. So what is the condition? If the president is satisfied, so here we said that the president has to be satisfied of what? Satisfied that there is a grave emergency, or there is a threat to the security of India, or there is an imminent danger of what? Three things: war, external aggression, and armed rebellion. Earlier, this word armed rebellion was not there. Earlier, the word was internal disturbance. So, Indira Gandhi used this provision to actually impose emergency in 1975. That there is internal disturbance. Basically, Jayaprakash Narayan gave a call that we will go on an all India protest on the 12th of July, and we will try to overthrow this government. Government has to resign because Indira Gandhi was declared disqualified by the Allahabad High Court under section 123 subsection 7 of RPA, corrupt practices, section 8A. So there she was held guilty and she was disqualified for 6 years by the Allahabad High Court, and that had been challenged in the Supreme Court, where it was pending. And because of that, opposition leaders said that, come on, you should resign. And she was not resigning. And that is why we had the provision. That is why Indira Gandhi used internal disturbance. She said that in our country, people are causing disturbance and I have to impose emergency. Now, internal disturbance is a very loose kind of word. I mean, what is internal disturbance? If 10 people today stand up and start shouting, government hi hi, Murdabad, then will that be disturbance? Of course not. So it can be misused. So when Indira Gandhi lost the election, Janata Party came to power in 1977 after winning the elections post-emergency. They modified a lot of things. One was this also. They modified this word internal disturbance, saying that no, only if there is an armed rebellion in the country, people take up arms and rebel against the country, then only will you have the right to impose emergency. So this is the current situation, 3-step criteria. Okay. Now, these two reasons are external reasons, because if war means what? Some other country. External aggression means what? Some other country tries to show aggression towards India. And this is an internal reason. Okay, that's there. Now, what is the role of the parliament? As far as the parliament is concerned, every emergency that is imposed has to be approved by the parliament within 1 month of the proclamation. So if today I impose emergency as the president, within the next 30 days, both the houses have to approve it separately. And this approval will be done by what kind of majority? Special majority. That is what? 2/3 present and voting, more than 50% of the total membership or total strength. So a special majority is required to approve the imposition of national emergency within 1 month. Of course, if houses are not in session, after they come into session, within 1 month they have to approve it. Now, once emergency is approved by the parliament, it will remain in force for next 6 months. In force from the next 6 months from the date of approval by the parliament. not from date of proclamation, from date of approval of the proclamation. Okay, so 6 months. But then one other important element that you need to understand is that such emergencies can continue for an indefinite period. Indefinite period. But the only condition that you have to understand that is available is what? The only condition is every 6 months it has to be approved again and again and again. So if today I proclaim emergency, within 1 month Parliament must approve it. From that date, 6 more months it will continue. After 6 months it ends automatically. If you want it to continue further, again you have to pass a majority, again extend it for 6 more months. After 6 months it ends. If you want to extend it, again approve it. So for every further extension of 6 months, parliamentary approval is required, and this approval, mind you, is the same kind of approval that is required here. And in short, emergency can continue indefinitely. Can continue indefinitely, subject to regular approval. Now, if you want to end emergency in between only, let's say after 2 months only, the situation, the condition has improved, there is no armed rebellion, the war is over, external aggression is over. If any such thing happens that the condition has improved in the before 6 months only, can we end it? Yes, we can. We can revoke. Revoke means to end, annul, right? Can we vary it? Let's say emergency is there in the entire country, but now we want emergency only in Gujarat. Can we vary it? Yes, we can vary it at any point of time. Who can do it? Of course, the president can do it. The government can simply say, sir, it has been 20 days now, end emergency. Emergency can end at any point of time. It is not mandatory to have emergency in for the entire 6 months period. It can be removed at any point of time. However, there is also an alternative. So while we are discussing the chapter Parliament, the last slide before ADL was special powers of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, of which there was a special power of Lok Sabha. This is the special power of Lok Sabha. Very, very important. Special power of Lok Sabha. So if you want to end emergency before 6 months at any point of time, 1/10 members, that is the quorum of the Lok Sabha, they have to give notice in writing to the speaker. If house is not in session, to president. If Lok Sabha not in session, then to the president. And within 14 days, wherever the MPs are, they have to come and a special sitting will be conducted within 14 days of receiving such a notice. Okay? And this is mandatory. So when the MPs give a notice, the speaker has to call for a sitting. This is not optional. They are just informing that, sir, we want to end it, let's vote. So the speaker cannot say no, get lost. You have to accept it. It's mandatory. A special sitting must be conducted within 14 days. Their voting will take place. This notice will put up for voting that we want to end emergency. How many of you agree? Ayes. People will shout ayes. And if it is approved, emergency will end. Resolution should be approved by a, look at this provision, simple majority, meaning what? More than 50%. To start emergency, at least to proclaim emergency, to approve it, special majority, both the houses separately, no joint sitting. But to end it, Simple majority. Only in the Lok Sabha. Raj Sabha has no such power. This power is only for Lok Sabha. Okay? Raj Sabha has no such power. So Lok Sabha can end the emergency. Okay? So as far as the emergency is concerned, we now know that how to uh, begin it, how to impose it, and how to end it. Okay. So this is all about the emergency. Now, what are the effects of national emergency? Nitesh, sir, president doesn't require parliamentary approval to revoke an emergency. No, the president does not need any parliamentary approval. The president can do it on his own. This is an option, meaning government can do it on his own, on their own, of course. If the government is not willing to end it, the Lok Sabha MPs can also end it. But of course, Lok Sabha means what? Control of government. So why will they end it? That's there. Now, what are the effects of national emergency? It is very important to understand this because most of us have a lot of misconception that a lot of things happen in emergency. Not really. Not a lot changes for us. Even if you have an emergency right now, national emergency, not a lot of things will change in terms of administration. It will exactly be the same. Okay. Mandeep, voting for revoking, voting only Lok Sabha. This is a special power only of Lok Sabha, not in Rajya Sabha. So Raj Sabha has no say in ending it. Okay. Raj Sabha has a say in approving it, not ending it. This is a special power of Lok Sabha only. Okay. First things first, executive effect. So this misconception has to be removed. When emergency is in force, state governments continue to function. Don't think that they are removed. Am I clear on this? When emergency is in force, state governments continue to function as it is, no change whatsoever. It is just that the states are now under the complete control of the center. That's it. Meaning, the center can give any kind of direction to the state government to perform functions on any kind of matter. So that kind of control is there now. Normally what happens is center can give direction to states to perform functions which are related to union list or concurrent list, not state list. But in times of national emergency, center can give any kind of direction to the states to perform functions on any kind of matter. Okay. Number two, legislative effects. So we have seen Article 249, right? When Raj Sabha authorizes the parliament to make laws on state list subject. There is one more situation where the parliament can make laws on state list subject. What is that? National emergency. So Article 250 says that if you have national emergency, then the parliament can make laws on state list subjects. Again, let me clarify. When there is a national emergency, parliament can make laws on state list subjects, no problem. This does not mean that the parliament will not make laws. The states cannot make laws. State can also make laws on the what? State list subjects. It is just that both the parliament and the states can make laws on state list subjects. So think of it that the state laws or the state list subjects become or act like concurrent list. They are not transformed into concurrent list. I'm just giving an example to help you understand. Because in the state list, whatever topics are there, both the center and the states can make laws now, right? So center gets this opportunity to make laws on state list subject. No permission of Raj Sabha required. Nothing is required. Okay, they can directly make laws. The moment emergency is imposed, the parliament gets the power to make laws on state list subjects. Okay. As I said, states can still make laws subject to overriding power of union. So, state list behaves like concurrent list. I hope you understood the meaning of this, because For concurrent list, both center and states make laws. Now, when the parliament has made a law on any state list subject, let's say police, that law, when it is made, it will not continue forever. Laws made, that is by parliament, of course, become inoperative 6 months after the end of emergency. So any law made by the center, parliament, on a state list subject during national emergency will only continue for maximum 6 months after the end of emergency, after which the law ends automatically. So a national emergency does not give the parliament this power to make laws for indefinite period. The time frame is limited to just 6 months after the end of emergency. And very important, we know very well that the tenure of Lok Sabha is 5 years, tenure of Vidhan Sabha is 5 years. That's strict tenure. And Article 83 says that the moment the Lok Sabha or the Vidhan Sabha has been, the 5 years are over, at that very moment, the houses are subject to automatic dissolution. No need to pass any bill, act, proposal, order. 5 years, house dissolved. But when you have a national emergency, then Parliament by law may extend the life of Lok Sabha or the Assembly by 1 year at a time. Okay. So Parliament can extend the life of Lok Sabha or the Assembly by 1 year at a time. During emergency, the tenure of Lok Sabha can be more than 5 years. During emergency, tenure of Vidhan Sabha can be more than 5 years. Okay. One simple question, type yes or no, A for yes, B for no. During emergency, tenure of Rajya Sabha can also be extended. A for yes, B for no. Tell me. During emergency, tenure of Rajya Sabha can also be extended. A for yes, B for no. How did you say yes? There is no tenure of Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha is a continuing chamber. What is the tenure of Rajya Sabha? Rajya Sabha has no tenure only. What will you extend? The MPs of Rajya Sabha have a tenure of 6 years, not the Rajya Sabha. Remember, continuing chamber. Okay, so that's there. Nitesh, Parliament bylaw will extend it. The tenure. Jay, means effect will be up to 12 months. Not necessarily. What if emergency is there for 3 years? Then the effect can be for 3 years and 6 months. So what if emergency is only for 1 month? Then 1 month plus 6 months. So why do you assume that emergency will be there for at least 6 months? There is nothing mentioned that emergency has to be there for 6 months, right? Anshu, without Rajya Sabha approval, of course, yes. What if emergency continued more than 1 year? Then Lok Sabha Assembly, the tenure can be increased. Please read. 1 year at a time. You can continue to extend that tenure for any number of years. 100 years also, no problem. Because national emergency can continue indefinitely. Can continue indefinitely. There is no limit to how many years an emergency can continue. The only condition is every 6 months, Parliament approves, emergency continues. Every 6 months, it approves, emergency continues. It can continue forever and ever and ever. Okay. Extension. Sayadri, I have pointed this out. Extension is also through a special majority only. Yes, Sakshi, when emergency was there, Indira Gandhi extended the tenure of Lok Sabha twice for 2 years. Each time 6 month national emergency is extended, but tenure 1 year. What is this, Shalu? What is your question? Rephrase it. Shiva, Rajya Sabha approval then is also needed as it is part of Parliament. For what? For approval Yes. But here I have clearly mentioned in the bracket Lok Sabha. So no. LS life 1 year means what? The tenure of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha can extend by 1 year at a time. Normally, the tenure is 5 years only. It can extend by 1 year to 6 years, one more year to 7 years, one more year to 8 years, indefinitely. No, Anshu, 1 year at a time. So the power to promulgate emergency is equal with Lok Sabha? Yes, Ajit. To promulgate? Yes. Sayadri, yes. By law means simple majority. Extension of the tenure of Lok Sabha is by simple majority. Approval of emergency is by special majority. Don't confuse two things. Extension of emergency is by a special majority. Extension of tenure of Lok Sabha is separate topic. It is by a simple majority. These two things are separate. Vipin, sir, third point has similar extension of 6 months provision like Article 249. Yes, in some sense, yes, it's similar. Each time emergency is extended for 6 months only. Then how Lok Sabha tenure extended by 1 year? That is the law. What kind of question is this? I mean, that is what is mentioned in the Constitution. That even if you extend emergency for 6 months at a time, the tenure of the Lok Sabha or the Vidhan Sabha can be extended by 1 year at a time. Okay. Chanabaswa, no such permission is required. Emergency can at time extend to 3 years. Ranjan, no, not at a time. It can extend to only 6 months at one time. But that extension can continue every 6 months, every 6 months, every 6 months, up to 3 years, 10 years, 20 years. Okay. In Punjab, Sakshi, you are now referring to President's rule. Don't intermingle two things. We are discussing national emergency right now. So focus only on national emergency. What you are referring to in Punjab was the President's rule. We'll come to that. Don't worry. We won't run away in between. No, Nitesh, Parliament by law. We'll have to modify that. President's approval. It's Parliament by law. Basic. The idea is that the President approves, right? But the Parliament by law has to actually pass it, and then President signs it. So slight modification there. Parliament by law. Okay. Yes, Neil. Absolutely correct. Yes, Yamani. Correct. Yaram City. Please follow this diagram, and you'll get your provision. Approval requires special majority. Even the parliamentary approval for extension, I have drawn this long line with an arrow mark. What is the meaning of this? Extension also requires the same special majority. Okay. So please don't type any question. Hear me out first. Please, for once, just calm down, everybody. Or the 2-3 people who have a problem. Hear me out. If you have to extend national emergency, whether for the first time or the second time or the third time or the 100th time, special majority is required. Okay. Secondly, but if you have to end emergency, only Lok Sabha can do it by a simple majority. And number two, during a national emergency, the tenure of Lok Sabha or Vidhan Sabha of any state can be extended by Parliament by a simple majority for 1 year at a time. Okay. So special majority is required only in one case. That is the emergency continuing or being approved. Whether first time or second time does not matter. Every approval of emergency requires a special majority. Are we clear now? Now please, any more question? Shalu, what will happen if the state government will not follow central government direction? Then we'll have to impose president's rule on that state. Anshu, what if parliament does not extend any assembly? No problem. Sir and ma'am, please. May. You have the power. You have 10 rupees in the pocket. Your mother gave you 10 rupees to spend. What if you don't spend? What happens? Nothing happens. So this is a power that is there. If you don't extend it, no problem. Yes, of course it dissolves. After 5 years, every Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha is subject to automatic dissolution. It will dissolve. If an emergency is only for 3 months, in the fourth month after emergency ended, Nitin, look at your question. If emergency is not there, how can you extend the Lok Sabha? Lok Sabha can only be extended during emergency. You are saying if emergency is over, can I next month extend Lok Sabha? Does it make sense? But emergency is over. This power to extend is only there when emergency is in force. Yes, Shalu, elections will take place if it is not extended. Certainly, why are some of you asking very basic questions? That will we have election? Will the houses be dissolved? Of course. That's why I said, don't overthink. Please refer to what is mentioned here. Don't create scenarios. There can be infinite scenarios in your mind. Okay? There can be infinite scenarios in our mind. But the point is, if you just refer to these points, everything else is something that you already covered. These are the only exceptions. Okay. Yaram Setti, when emergency is imposed, what things come under president's control? Nothing. Nothing comes under his control. State government, central government, both are there. It is just that the center can now also give direction to state government to manage even stateless subjects. So in that sense, the center can also give orders to state governments to manage the police, etc. So that's there. Okay, should we now move forward? Aniket, do we have instances of misuse of emergency in the past? Indira Gandhi's emergency was there, which was largely the best example of misuse. But for that, we'll have to wait for a couple of moments where we'll discuss one more effect of emergency. That is the most interesting effect on fundamental rights. So as of now, see, even if the parliament starts making law on stateless subjects, what is our concern? Do you know what laws are being made by your state government? Of course not. Nothing is your concern. That's why I said administrative structure remains largely the same for a common man. Because for us, whether parliament makes a law or state government, we will not find any difference. It is their fight which is happening, right? But there is something that does change for people. We'll discuss that shortly. So we have seen number one, executive effect. Number two, legislative effects. Are we all okay? Yes, that is Article 365. We'll come to it later on. Then we have financial effects. Financial effects. Now, please understand. When emergency is in force, what is the reason for it? War, external aggression, armed rebellion, center is controlling everything, right? So in this situation, the problem is that we center has lot of added responsibilities. Can you think of it? Suddenly, the center has to manage a war also, maybe manage the states also, maybe manage some external aggression, maybe control armed rebellion. So many things have to be managed by the center. So normally, every 5 years we have a finance commission which gives recommendation that of the total taxes collected by center, give 40% to states, keep 60% for yourself. But we are talking about an emergency situation. War is happening. We cannot give 40% to states. We have to control, right? So during a national emergency, center is empowered to alter, meaning modify, the distribution of revenue between union and states. Are they clear? For example, let's say regular times 60% goes to union, total tax, and 40% goes to states. That's for aam zindagi. Suddenly, if there is emergency during national emergency, okay, during national emergency, the revenue distribution can be modified. So, union can say, sorry guys, we had promised you that we'll give you 40%, but we are taking 90%. States, you have to manage with 10% only. Okay, that's it. This is the distribution, alteration of the revenue distribution. Clear? Then, if you alter this revenue distribution, such alteration of revenue distribution cannot extend beyond the expiration of the financial year in which such proclamation ceases to operate. Okay, a very simple statement, but I'll give you an example. Let us assume that emergency is proclaimed on 8th of April 2023. Okay. Now, this emergency, say, ends on 9th of August 2023. This emergency ends here. Okay. Which financial year has the emergency ended in? Current financial year. So, revenue alteration will only continue till 31/03/24. Okay, that is the time till which the revenue alteration will continue. However, same scenario, emergency is imposed on 8th of April, that is today, oh sorry, maybe yesterday. It ends on, say, 10th of May 2024. This is the next financial year. Next financial year. So now emergency the revenue alteration will continue till what date? Please write. Right? If emergency ends on this date, then till what time can the revenue be altered by the center? Oh, no, I want the year also. It will be 31st of March, of course. Which year? 2025. Because this is the next financial year. This is financial year 24-25. Right? So, the alteration will continue till the next financial year. Remember financial year? April to March. Are we clear, everyone? Some of you have made small errors, so I hope that is correct for you now. So, in whichever financial year the emergency ends, till the end of that financial year, the revenue can be altered. Are we clear? I'll repeat. Till the end of whichever financial year the emergency continues, right? Till that end of the financial year, the revenue can be altered. In whichever financial year emergency ends, till the end of that financial year, the revenue will be altered. Are we clear, everyone? Let's hope we are clear on this. Okay. Now comes the real point here. So far what we have seen is that, oh, states' powers are shared by center. Center is giving order to state government. Center can make laws on stateless subjects. All this drama is there. What's of our concern? It's a problem of state government. You fight with the center. Now comes a situation which affects us also. That's the fourth point. which is the effect on fundamental rights. So basically, whenever emergency is in force, national emergency, two things can happen. There are two articles, 358, 359. I'll explain both these one by one. First up is Article 358. What does this article say? This says that the moment, and please hear me carefully, right? The moment national emergency is imposed on external reasons. External reasons. What is an external reason? External reason can be war or external aggression. These two are external reasons. Okay. Now, this external reason, if it becomes a reason to impose national emergency, at the very moment the president signs the order, Article 19 gets suspended. Okay. What is Article 19? So you don't know right now. We'll discuss this in the next weekend. Article 19 contains articles like freedom of speech and expression, right to form associations, freedom to assemble anywhere, not anywhere, of course, freedom to assemble peacefully, right to travel anywhere, right to reside anywhere, right to practice any profession, any occupation, any trade, any business. These are the 6 rights available to us under Article 19, right? All these rights are cancelled immediately. This is automatic. No need for the president to tell us separately, right? It is automatic. Like, I don't keep on telling you that, guys, president means Article 74. We understand it is automatic. Same thing here. The moment president issues order, national emergency is being proclaimed on grounds of war. That very moment, Article 19 is gone. Okay. And it is gone till emergency is there. Once emergency is over, article comes back. Right. So this particular provision is applicable to the entire country for the entire duration. I mean, or that part for entire duration. So if emergency is imposed only for a small part, that entire part, whichever part the emergency is imposed for that entire area, for the entire duration of emergency, no Article 19 is there. Okay. You cannot go to court and claim anything. You cannot claim anything. Now you can ask a question, but sir, when emergency is over, can we go and claim Article 19 in the court for anything wrong that was done during emergency? No, you can't. Why? Because there was no Article 19 only. What will you claim? Let us say during emergency, government controls your speech and expression. Government says nobody will publish anything against the government or I'll jail you. Okay. No freedom of press. Emergency is over. Now you go to court, High Court, Supreme Court. That's sir, during emergency, government jailed me for publishing articles against it. Right to Article 19. The court will say, sorry, during emergency, there was no Article 19. Nothing was violated. Now it is there. If now the government tries to curtail your Article 19, then you come to me. But during emergency, whatever happened, don't come to me because nothing was there only. What are you claiming? No Article 19 during emergency. Are we all okay with this? Yes or no? Please write or raise hands or whatever so that we understand. Okay, great. So this was Article 358. Amazing. That's why look at the last point. It is very wide. Why? Right becomes dead. It is very wide because the right becomes dead. During emergency, no right only. So this is Article 358. I'll repeat, summarizing it once again. Follow me carefully. Whenever the president proclaims national emergency on external reasons, that is war or external aggression, At that very instant, for that entire area, the Article 19 is suspended, it is removed, it is not applicable, and this continues till the very end of emergency. Okay, this is what is Article 358. Now, in fact, to just give you an example, somebody was asking me, sir, has there been a misuse of emergency? Of course. I mean, the misuse of emergency can be seen very clearly in the case of 1975. I mean, the moment emergency was announced, arrests started. Student activists, trade unionists, Jan Sangh members, Congress members, socialist members, all of these people jailed. 36,000 people were jailed. 36,000, in fact, more than them were jailed. In fact, the funny thing was, in the in 1975-76, Indira Gandhi gave an interview to the Saturday Review, this New York based magazine, and she mentioned a statement. She said, "Emergency is not the abrogation of democracy; it is an effort to safeguard it." So people are asking that emergency is an abrogation; it's violating democracy. What is this? And she said, "No, no, no. Emergency has been imposed by me to safeguard democracy." In fact, Congress used to publish slogans. Discipline makes nation great. You harass people, arrest them, and say, we are disciplining you. Then one more slogan which is very popular was, she stands between order and chaos. Oh, how sweet. Then Indira Gandhi also justified emergency by saying that, this is the bitter pill which is being given to the sick child that the country has become. So such nice things being said. And it was during this emergency only that some changes were made. And normally you have something called censorship. Censorship happens. So whenever things are published, if there is any derogatory statement that you publish, you write articles, etc., that will be removed. That is called censorship. Okay. During emergency, we had pre-censorship. Before you had to get something published in the newspaper, you had to get the approval from all these government officials. So right now what happens? I write an article, it gets published. If there's something wrong, that has to be deleted. But in emergency 1975, before I could get it published, I had to go to some official, officials would come to these press and they would see, what are you publishing? You could not criticize the government. Not possible. That is why you would find no reports on processions, no reports on strikes, no reports on jail, no reports on political opposition. Nothing was published. All these great newspapers, the Hindu, they, with their tails between their legs, right? They wagged their tails to the whims of the government and published great things about the government. That is also a reality. The past that these newspapers forget. Indian Express largely published blank columns as a mark of protest. Otherwise, every newspaper, of course, there was pre-censorship. You could be jailed. So sometimes very unique methods were found, because see, all these bureaucrats would come to these press offices and see what was the editorial, what is the article being published. So sometimes some innovative ways were used to express the anger of the people. So I believe there's a very interesting obituary in Times of India. Obituary is, when you see in the newspaper, when somebody dies, you write this obituary announcing somebody's death, right? Mourned by his wife, daughter, son, etc. So in Times of India, there was an obituary published that uh, we announce the death of Mr. D.E.M. Ocracy. Death of Mr. D.E.M. Ocracy, democracy, which has been mourned by his wife, T. Ruth. So, truth. Son, Mr. Libirtie, Liberty, and daughters, Faith, Hope, and Justice. So, very interesting way to mourn on the death of democracy. And somehow this got published actually. So our bureaucrats could not understand the sarcasm behind it, and it got published, right? So as a bureaucrat, it's important to also understand sarcasm, right? So in future, if you ever have to impose emergency and proclaim and follow it, please keep a lookout for these things also, the innovative minds of our people. So that was there. And of course, the biggest issue that Indira Gandhi faced in emergency was that her son uh, was trying to take control of a very big issue, that was population explosion. So basically, population explosion was a serious concern. It is definitely a genuine concern. And we also added a new subject in the concurrent list of family planning population control, transferring it to concurrent list from state list to have more control of the center. And Sanjay Gandhi issued, or he did not, Indira Gandhi issued orders to conduct forced vasectomies. Vasectomies, for those who don't understand, nasbandi. So for men, you could not reproduce now. And that became an emotive and explosive issue, vasectomy, right? In fact, BDOs, DMs were given targets that in your district, in your block, get the hospitals to conduct at least 10 vasectomies per week or 20 per week. Targets were given. Young people, early 20s, they were caught. Forced vasectomies were conducted all across the northern part of the country primarily. So there's a lot of resentment. In fact, this was a singular cause which led to the demise of Congress government. In fact, in 1977, when Indira Gandhi was very confident, and look at the situation when she, in January, announced election, what she said was that earlier the country was on a brink of disaster. Now we are nursing it back to health. And then she announced elections on the 18th of January 1977. Within 5 days, all the opposition members collectively formed a grand party called Janta Party, Jan Sangh, Bharatiya Lok Dal, Charan Singh's party, Socialist Party, Congress O, all those leaders who had left Congress. Then one Jagjeevan Ram. So Jagjeevan Ram formed his own party called Congress for Democracy. All these parties came together to form Janta Party. Elections happened, and of course, Congress lost, primarily in the northern part of the country, because population explosion was a concern in the northern part. Southern parts had largely controlled population, right? And Congress, which used to win 360, 370 seats, came down to 153 seats. Of course, now they have made a new record. But 1970s, the Congress, the party which had played a pivotal role in getting us independence, brought down to 153 seats, and that too thankfully for some southern states, like say, for example, Andhra Pradesh, where it won 41 out of 42 seats, Karnataka 26 out of 28 seats. But in northern parts, UP, Bihar, 0, Rajasthan, 1 seat, MP, 1 seat, wiped out completely. Indira Gandhi lost elections in Raebareli to Raj Narayan. Sanjay Gandhi lost election in Amethi to some young student activist leader. So that was the situation. Anyway, see, when Janta Party came to power, all these top-notch leaders getting various posts, Morarji Desai becoming the Prime Minister, Jagjeevan Ram becoming Defense Minister, H.M. Patel Finance Minister, Charan Singh Home Minister, Madhu Dandavate Railway Minister. In fact, when Madhu Dandavate became the Railway Minister, for the first time in our railways, we got foam seats in the second class also. So earlier in the second class, we had wooden seats. So the Janta Party introduced the foam seats in the second class for common man. So common man also has a right to sit on foam seats. But anyway, see, if you have so many parties with different ideologies coming together with the single notion of defeating one person only. Of course, Janta Party and CFD got 298 seats. But if your agenda is to defeat a single party, you will not succeed. Of course, so many diverging opinions, the party collapsed. We had to have elections in 1980, and then Indira Gandhi came back to power. Anyway, so that was Article 358, which has an effect on emergency. Now we'll also see Article 359, but let's take a break. After the break, we'll look at Article 359, and I'll tell you one of the landmark judgments in our country. That was the ADM Jabalpur case, where Supreme Court gave the worst judgment possible in the history of this country. That was ADM Jabalpur versus Shivkant Shukla case of 1976, the same Supreme Court which sings praises about how amazing their past has been. They gave a horrendous judgment. Anyway, more on this after the break. Let's take a break, be back at 2, and we'll continue our discussion further. Break, please, guys. Break till 2 p.m.